give you a 3-word phrase, and then we're going to talk about each of those words individually. That's going to help you to overcome sales objections in a way that makes sense, that's easy to understand, easy to remember, and hopefully very successful for you. So the 3 words that I want to give you are feel, felt, found. First up, feel. Okay. So when someone says, I don't know if I really want to go forward now, it's a lot of money, right? That's a common objection, especially for legal services. Then what you would say is, I understand how you feel. Okay. Now, do you have to use the words, I understand how you feel? No, but you want to connote that. You're trying to convey empathy, agreement, and validation. Okay. How you convey that becomes a matter of choice of words. There are lots of different words you can use, but I want you to keep feel in your mind as I understand how you feel. Why is that important? Because most of the time when people disagree, they are already on guard for you to disagree back with them, right? That's why we call it a disagreement, right? We're not together. We're not on the same page. We don't see it eye to eye. You have said something, they have disagreed. They're expecting a counter. You don't want to counter. You want to immediately validate what they have to say by saying, I understand how you feel. And you want to do that with a tone and an affect and an energy that legitimately tells them you understand how they feel. Okay? If you say, I understand how you feel, and then you start disagreeing with them, you're not going to accomplish the goal. Next up is felt. So we've said, I understand how you feel. The next thing you want to say is, others have felt the same way. Okay? Other clients of ours have felt the same way. Now, why is this important? Well, the first thing that you are doing when you say others, right, is you are making a communal experience out of an isolated experience. Because again, you have authority, and by virtue of having other people hear you and know your status as lawyers, your prospective client is going to think of you as a leader, and they're going to give you a higher status. You are immediately taking them out of the vulnerable position of disagreeing with an authority and putting them into a category with a host of other people. And that safety in numbers actually matters, okay? I'm sure you all have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I talk about it periodically on this podcast. But one of the things that we know about human behavior is that we all feel safer when there are others around us. And around us doesn't have to mean physically around us. It means around our idea, right? There is a reason why people tend to go with the flow when there are a host of folks saying, hey, I like X. Even if you're the only person in the room that does not like X, you are more likely to say you like it if other people are saying they like it. Well, why is that? Because we all have a need for acceptance by the tribe, okay? Just thinking back to prehistoric days, if we wandered off from the tribe, we were going to die, right? We're much more likely to be eaten by a lion or a gazelle or whatever if there is one of us out there on the prairie than if there are hundreds of us all around. That would most likely intimidate the animal not to come over to us. And if the animal does come over to us, they can't get us all, right? We have the opportunity to make a run for it. So that mindset is still very much hardwired in how we think as humans. And most humans are going to feel more comfortable knowing that other people will oftentimes agree with or feel the same way as they do. We've talked about the idea of how oftentimes we look for heroes, and whether you are serving as the hero in the story, guiding your prospective client over the finish line to getting what they need, i.e. the representation they need, or you are the villain in the story who is standing between them and the service that they need because you are not giving it to them at the price that they want, becomes a matter of perception. And the way that you get to be the hero is you get to lean into that status you already have. Remember that elevated status you have. But in leaning in, you also get to be both extraordinary because you are the high status person, but also ordinary. There is something about our needing to connect with whoever it is that we're selling on a level that makes us feel like they know us, right? This is my kind of person. This is somebody who gets me. This is not somebody who looks down on me. This is somebody who understands me. Well, again, you've already created that empathy, agreement, and validation when you said, I understand how you feel. And now you are shifting into the communal stage of others felt the same way, right? You're making it safe for the person to disagree with you, which is making you a more likable person. The last thing that you want to do is our third word, which is found, right? So we had feel, felt, and now we're at found. When we say found, the statement you're going to make is, however, what our clients have found when they start to work with us is XYZ. Okay. Now, I'm saying XYZ right now because I don't know what it is the person has specifically objected to beyond the price, right? We know that in this instance, we start with a price objection. I don't know what would shift in this particular sales conversation the price from being one that feels really high to one that feels more reasonable. Okay. So you have to think about what you have shared so you can know what's going to come at that ellipsis, right? What others have found when they start to work with us is ... right? That ... has to be filled in with something meaningful to the conversation that you've had with the prospect. Now, here is the Jedi ninja trick. Ideally, this form of overcoming objections has happened throughout your sales conversation. The first time you address an objection should not be at the close, okay? The first time you hear an objection shouldn't be at the close. You should presume certain objections are naturally going to come up based on what you're selling and based on what you might know about your prospective client. Okay. And the great thing is that if you are addressing their objections as the conversation is unfolding, it becomes a lot easier than at the end to close, right? You don't start getting a lot of stammering, a lot of backing up, a lot of running away. Doesn't mean that you won't get objections at the point of asking when you do the call to action and you ask for the sale. Doesn't mean that you won't actually get objections, but the objections will be easier to overcome if you have been addressing them as you go. So ideally, you've worked it into the conversation how you have had similar clients express certain things, that you understand how they feel, that many clients have felt the same way as that particular person, right? We call that person a case study, right? So you want to build in case studies to your sales conversation. Again, Jedi Ninja trick. And then finally, but what our clients have found is the way that we handle XYZ allows them to. Or what we have found is when our clients start the process of funding litigation, it is easier for them to manage when we manage it this way, right? That might go into the structure of your pricing and things like that. But again, it's not a capitulation on the price. So it's important when you do the feel, felt, found that you work it into your normal nomenclature, right? So you have to think about how you might express, I understand how you feel. Other clients have felt the same way. But what our clients have found is when they start to work with us, XYZ is different for them. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to just remind you about when you use this objection, it's really powerful. But a lot of people have said to me, it feels boxy. Like I don't normally talk this way. Or, of course, a person would expect me to disagree with them and would expect me to say, oh, no, it's not like that. So how do I avoid that tension, that push and pull that comes? And the way that you do that is by elucidating in each of those areas, right? So when you say, I understand how you feel, you don't immediately jump to other clients who felt the same way, right? You say, I understand how you feel. It's a big decision that you're making right now, and this is going to impact your finances, your life. Clearly, you're going to have to make some adjustments into the future. You're at a lot of risk right now, so I understand how terse that is for you, right? So you use your languaging around, I understand how you feel, to further validate, to further empathize, to further seek agreement with the person. Because you want the person to be coming over to you as that conversation is building, so that by the time you get to the end of found and you say, however, what our clients have found when they start to work with us is XYZ, you'll start to find that the person is nodding along, right? They're now in agreement with you because you have built up enough of a runway in the description that you're given to really lather on what the person needs, right? You're talking to somebody who is a high status person, that ego stroke is going to matter more. If you're talking to somebody who's really, really fearful, then I understand how you feel might be less important than others have felt the same way, right? That safety in numbers, tribal urge that they need might be greater for that person if they're a very fear-based person, right? And again, this is all going to evolve as you start having more sales conversations and as you start figuring out what works for you based on your tone and cadence and what works for the people to whom you are selling.